I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guests are Robert Tosh Plumlee and Ralph Pezzullo. I've got some great upcoming guests: Dr. Heather Lynn, Ani Osaru, Stephen Stathis, and Jehan Sator. Be on the lookout for those. Also, check out my films. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. I am booking guests for June. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome Robert Tosh Plumlee and Ralph Pezzullo. Tosh is a former contract pilot who claims to have participated in covert aviation operations connected to U.S. intelligence agencies beginning in the early 1950s. Ralph is co-author of the book Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. Robert, Ralph, welcome. How are y'all doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Doing great, and thanks for having us on. We appreciate that.
I am really looking forward to this discussion. Tosh, you're coming forward after 62 years from the assassination of JFK with claims that you co-piloted a CIA-linked mission transporting a Pentagon quote-unquote abort team to Dallas the morning of the assassination with an objective to stop the plot already in motion. And this is detailed in your new book, Deep Cover, Shallow Graves, co-authored by Ralph Pezzullo, who we also have here. If your claims are true, it could bring new light to one of the most important events in modern history. There's a lot to get to here. Before we do, let's just start with Tosh, a little bit about your background before we get into this.
Okay, I run away from home when I was 14 years old, Texas, raised in Dallas, Texas. Joined the Texas 49th Armored Division at 14, learned how to drive a Sherman tank, used that to spin off to get into the regular Army at 15, 16, actually 16. Got stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas. And then right after that, a lot of us guys were basically juvenile delinquents. So I run away from home and never went to school. My mother knew all the truant officers by their first name, and like I say, I run away from joining the Army. I was raised in World War II. Patriotism was the key word in those years, and so that had a tremendous influence on my being raised. I hung out at Dallas Love Field and talked to all the pilots. A lot of them World War II pilots that had been with the 8th Air Force. Learned a lot of the jargon, learned how to talk to walk and that. So that aided me in getting into the military. And so while I was at Fort Bliss, we went assigned to a special unit. This was about the time that they were starting the special forces, the Rangers and all that. That patterned a program off the Dirty Dozen of World War II, where prisoners would be taken out of prison, trained, and had to go and carry on operations behind enemy lines. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of those guys, OSS guys, and Fort Bliss. They were some of my instructors, and that led to a contact with the CID, Criminal Investigation Detachment, because of my age, and that also attached me to, not attached, but got me associated with CIA recruiters at a young age. And there was about 55 of us that was recruited for a Special Operations Task Force, or Training Task Force, and we were sent to a place called Illusionary Warfare Training in Nags Head, North Carolina. So I don't know if that's trying to crowd a lot of stuff in here in a short time. So Ralph, get me out of trouble.
Ralph, yes, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved.
Okay, so I'm a New York Times best-selling author of over 30 books, and I also have a podcast called Heroes Behind Headlines, and that's what a friend, an actor friend here in Los Angeles, told me about Tosh, made the introduction. Tosh appeared on my podcast, and we started talking, and he he asked, we decided to collaborate on this book. And it's been an interesting experience. And Tosh has had an incredible career. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Tosh, let me ask you, why now are you coming out with this information?
Well, that's okay. That's not quite true. I've been trying to come out with this information for 60 years.
Okay.
I've gone head to head, straight head to head, and I said, open the line, right, looking straight in your camera. The FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and I do not get, or did not, and do not get along. Their letterhead memos has destroyed my credibility. When I've testified to 3, 4 different committees over the last 60 years. When I talk about letterhead memos, they put information out that I was in prison. I've never been in prison. I don't have a record. They put records out that I had false narratives, that I had cashed checks all over the United States. I had not. There was no checks ever produced. There was no court records, no fingerprints, no files of where FBI letterhead memos said that I was incarcerated. Now, why did they do something like that? Because I was telling the story about illusionary warfare training program and telling the story about how I was involved in the JFK. In order to clear this up about JFK, I was only a pilot, and we'll get into that. But I was not part of an abort team. I was a co-pilot that flew a team that was dispatched from the Pentagon because of prior information that they'd received from multiple sources about a hit going to be made in Dallas, Texas on JFK in November. I was talking about that because I had privy, I had run in and known a guy by the name of George Jonatas, who was a CIA operative. I had contacts directly with Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald and I had prior contact, not as friends, but as contacts, military type contacts at Nags Head, North Carolina. He was ONI. I was attending the School of Illusionary Warfare at that point. I started writing a book about this, and then I got crosswise with the FBI, with the CIA, and also crosswise with the FBI because I wouldn't cooperate and I wouldn't shut up. Stop me, Ralph, here if I'm getting off base, So that led into a lot of years. Now, you mentioned why am I just now coming out? I have been blocked, character assassinated. My records have been basically destroyed. IRS has attacked me. I've attacked them. I've had a running battle with my own government for 60 something years. Now, this story that I'm telling you, whether people think it's BS or not, I don't really give a damn. But what I'm telling you is factual. There's documents in the book. There's documents to back up everything we say. There's breadcrumbs that anybody can follow to confirm what we're saying, what I've said. So this is not just now coming out. This has been coming out for 60 something years to talk about an incident in Dallas, Texas. As Ralph knows, we could write 1,500 pages about Black Ops and other operations that I was involved with all the way back NAM before and after. The only thing that they would pick up on would be the 3, 4 pages that we wrote about JFK. So I know that's just what people are interested in about that day. So how did we get to Dallas? The Pentagon had received prior information from multiple sources, one of them being a private Eugene B. Dinkin in France or in Switzerland. And he intercepted information of recruiting assassins in foreign countries to carry out assassination attempts on foreign leaders. He attempted to make that information public to the Pentagon. He was blocked. He was blocked by, well, whatever, military. They even put him in a crazy ward. But the point was he had information about the assassination. And as a result of that, the Pentagon put together a quick team that was supported with logistical support by the Central Intelligence Agency. And we flew that team into Dallas from Florida for the purpose of stopping the Kennedy assassination. I don't like that term abort, because what that means, we went in there to stop something that we started. Now, the conspiracy, I try to stay out of conspiracy, as Ralph knows. He does too. We try to stay with the facts, and that's what we're talking about now. So Sergio was a good friend of mine. I'd run guns in and out of Cuba. We'd stolen guns from National Guard armories, shipped them to Fidel Castro when he first came in 1957, 56, to the M26-7. I have a lot of good Cuban friends. I was part of the Cuban project. I worked out of JM Wave out of Miami in 57, 58, before Jim Wave was formed in 61. I worked with Alpha 66. I worked on Raider shipwrecks. I'm throwing a bunch of names out there, and there's some of your listeners out there know what the hell I'm talking about when I throw these crazy names out. So when we worked out of Marathon Key and Jack Tars at the training base down there, we used to take stolen National Guard weapons, and we shipped them to Fidel Castro in 1957, 58, and 59. And at the same time that we were doing that, for CIA-sponsored operations through cutout companies, fake companies, but cutout companies, cutout pilots, we were also having problems we were also shipping guns and weapons to Batista. So we're stealing guns from the National Guard armories, firing those guns legally, or not legally, but with full knowledge of the CIA, to support Fidel Castro. At the same time, we're fighting their aircraft and we're fighting their tanks, the tanks that we sent to Batista. So we're supplying both sides against the middle. We're supplying undercover with Fidel Castro, stealing our own weapons from our own National Guard, ferrying those weapons to Fidel Castro. At the same time, we're shipping tanks and planes to Batista. That's what went on from 1957, 58, and 59. There's a picture of me on the tank, of a Sherman tank coming into Santa Clara, and I got in a lot of trouble with that. I want to know what in the hell a CIA guy was doing on top of that damn tank. A little hard to explain in 1959, January the 1st. Stop me, Ralph.
Yeah, he was riding on top of a tank with, there were a bunch of Cuban rebels celebrating the departure of Batista, who was the dictator from Cuba. And they saw Tosh walking on the street in Santa Clara. They stopped the tank, and he was riding on the top of it with Che Guevara was right next to him. And here was an American with all these Cubans celebrating, and waving and so on and so forth. So, Tosh was like a Zelig, like he was that character who was showed up in all different times in history, right? He was like right in the middle of it. And he what's interesting about Tosh is that he was a cutout. So he wasn't like official CIA. You won't find his name on any like personnel records or official accounts. They kept him secret. So he worked for cutout companies. So they were CIA companies that always paid him a salary, and then if they had an operation that they needed him for, they could call him, which they did in late November 1963 when he was in Miami, and they called him, and just all he knew is that he was getting what they called a bump and told to go to an airport in West Palm Beach and meet it, and he would find an airplane there with a flight plan inside of it. He didn't know what the mission was, and often he didn't know the specifics of the mission. He was just told to play a role in it. And of course, they did it this way for deniability, right? So if you picked up Tosh, he would go, he didn't know anything. He wasn't plan. He didn't know what the overall plan was. But in this case, he was instructed to pick up Johnny Roselli, who's a gangster in Tampa Beach, and then fly to New Orleans and pick up E. Howard Hunt, who's a CIA officer. There were a number of Cubans who were on the plane, who were anti-Castro Cubans, who were working with the CIA, and they were told to fly to Dallas and to position themselves in different areas around Daley Plaza.
Yeah, that is, and that goes back. So, okay, Howard Hunt, I knew the Hunt family long before these operations. Most of all of us guys knew each other, peripheral, not buddies or whatever, something like that. But the record is established. In other words, Howard Hunt was a friend of mine. I know his son very well. St. John were like brothers. St. John wrote the afterwards for the book that Deep Covers Shallow Graves. Dick Russell, who was a very good researcher, wrote the foreword for Deep Cover Shallow Graves. Most of the information that's in the book and before the book pertaining to Kennedy and other operations is documented. We went back. What brought me out was in 1976 when they did the church committee. We used to go out of our way to make sure that we didn't get exposed. We didn't want publicity. We didn't want pictures. We didn't want our names out. Well, my name surfaced as an operative out of JM Wave and Alpha 66 and Dallas Cubans in 75, 74, 75, and 76 through Senator Barry Goldwater, and then also through Senator John Kerry, and also through later Senator Hart. So my name was exposed to the committee. Johnny Rosselli was a good friend of mine. Sam Giancana I knew Mafia, how we used to get paid, how I knew the Mafia, or not Mafia, whatever. Johnny Rosselli and Sam Giancana. John Martino, who was running all the casinos in Havana, used to pay us, our CIA guys, me and others, with chips. We didn't get checks. I worked for Mountain States Aviation, Riddle Airlines, Intermountain Aviation, Miranda Air Park. All these companies I worked for, those are CIA cutout companies. Talk about a bump, how we got deal. We'd be able to park someplace or a library. Someone would bump into us and hand us a bunch of chips. We'd cash those chips in at maybe a couple of $100, and the 50's a lot of money. So we'd cash those chips in. That's how we got paid. So I worked for cutout companies. In those years, those names, nobody knew those names. Those names came public after the church committee started their investigation. That brought some of us guys to the surface. We had to go and raise our right hand and talk to those people. And then the question come up, if you lied to the committee, you go to jail under 501 section. So I'm raising my right hand telling this story about what we're doing and stealing guns from National Guard armories. And then the FBI is saying, oh, he's full of crap. He wrote checks all over the country. We've got the letterhead memos to prove it. He's in jail. He's that. He's this, and so on like that. So you can't believe anything he says. So that's a form of character assassination. However, researchers at that particular time went out and could not find one check, documents to this effect. National Fraudulent Check File, run my file through, found absolutely no checks, no fingerprints. But here's the problem. They had all the fuel receipts. I signed fuel receipts for tail numbers of aircraft that were directly registered to the CIA out of Miranda Air Park, Tucson, Arizona, and also to military bases. So they asked me to explain that. When I started to explain it, they classified it top secret, committee sensitive, and went one step higher. They went SAP, Special Access Program, only could be pulled from a SCIF. So why was the FBI destroying my credibility and at the same time telling me I'm going to jail if I discussed what we were doing in Cuba? So the situation came up to where they threatened me, and I said, let's just take my paperwork and your paperwork and let's just go to talk to a federal judge, and you will have to provide all your paperwork to that judge and that court on discovery. So how do you want to play this silly game? So then they threatened me with what they call a FAG, F-A-G charge, false accusations against the government. I've testified to 5 committees 3 times telling this story. about the federal government was involved and had prior knowledge of JFK being assassinated, and the CIA elements within, not the agency, but elements within political had infiltrated various organizations and had set these things up. JFK was killed for one reason. He was going to pull troops out of Vietnam. He wasn't killed because of air support of the Bay of Pigs. There's two directives, Directive 263 and Directive 273. 263 was he was pulling 25,000 troops out of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
That directive was overridden by 273 in Honolulu, Hawaii, on a special deal that rolled like a draft, and they were going to increase the troops in Vietnam. Kennedy was dead. Problem of this was Bell Helicopter would have lost $22 million in contracts if we had pulled troops out of Vietnam. What was Kennedy killed for? So was he killed because he pulled troops out of air cover out of Cuba on the Bay of Pigs? Or was he killed because he was pulling troops out of Vietnam and wasn't going to put any more American lives at jeopardy in that foreign country? Ralph knows a hell of a lot more about all this than I do. But am I on base here, Ralph?
Mm-hmm. That's so basically after the Bay of Pigs, the Kennedys, President Kennedy it happened in early 1961, right after President Kennedy was elected and came into office. And it was a plan that was already on the books during the Eisenhower administration, a CIA plan, operation to send disaffected Cuban people disaffected with the government of Fidel Castro into Cuba to overthrow the government there, and they were supposed to land in Cuba. And the idea is that the Cuban people who were unhappy with Fidel Castro's regime would rise up and take over the government. But that didn't happen, and the operation was a failure. They tried to blame it on President Kennedy. President Kennedy took responsibility, but he was extremely upset with the CIA because they had assured him this was, they had planned this all out and it was sort of infallible. At that point,
he was getting wrong information from the intelligence people, and he formed that CENTCOM.
What he did is he and his brother Robert, they formed their own intelligence network, a secret intelligence network called CENTCOM. And they were using, because they didn't trust the information they were getting from the CIA, they started recruiting people to report to them independently. And of course, the CIA found out about it. And then when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened a year later, the top military advisors and CIA advisors were advising President Kennedy to launch a first strike against the Soviet Union. And he was horrified because they were saying, well, only 10 million Americans will die. He was like, I'm not going to have 10 million deaths on my hands. So what he did instead was to negotiate with Premier Khrushchev of the Soviet Union. They narrowly ended that conflict. And as a result of that, President Kennedy launched secret negotiations, back channel negotiations with Premier Khrushchev and with Fidel Castro. And actually, Tosh was one of the pilots that were used to fly an ABC reporter named Lisa Howard to Havana. She was used as the go-between between Fidel Castro and President Kennedy. Well, when the CIA found out about all of this, they were horrified, and they said, well, here's proof that our president has gone soft on communism, and we've got to get rid of this guy. And of course, this also intersected with their interest to add steam to the war, the fledgling war in Vietnam, and to make that broader, as Tosh pointed out.
On the Lisa Howard, I flew her twice into Cuba from Miami and also from Marathon Key, Florida. Very nice lady. later committed, quote, suicide.
Mm-hmm.
She had an affair with Fidel Castro, but her mission was a reapproachment, they called it, and she was negotiating to set up a meeting. I talked to her a little bit about that. I didn't know who I was talking to, didn't really care at that point in time, but she was negotiating or trying to be an open channel to get peace between KENCOM, which was Kennedy's special committee, and JFK and Fidel Castro. So that
So
was,
there was really a divide within the national security apparatus at the time. The Kennedys wanted peace and to
Mm-hmm.
end war, and the CIA and the Pentagon wanted to, you know, uh, expand wars because it was good for their patrons in the military industrial complex.
now let me
Now,
throw something. Let me throw something else in here
yeah,
real
go
fast.
ahead.
At this point in time, that's when the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and the CIA started a real battle. They started trying to bust us guys, CIA, against FBI
Mm.
over this information. It became a turf war. So we're not only fighting a Cold War, I mean, not a Cold War, Russia, but we're fighting within ourselves between two agencies, the CIA and the FBI. All my paperwork has this initial on it, JEH. Why was JEH, J. Edgar Hoover, monitoring a little old
Mm.
guy like me who wrote checks all over the country and was not creditable? I'm ask your listeners to go check that out. Why J. Edgar Hoover was monitoring not just me, but the 55 guys that I was associated with in that special operation dating all the way back to Nags Head in 1959. Why was the FBI monitoring me if I'm not creditable and if I wrote checks all over the country and if I'm a fabricator and a liar? Why is J. Edgar Hoover's initials? And then why did they start trying to stop us from flying out of secret bases that were run by the CIA?
Now, Tosh, can we go a little deeper into the timeline of
JFK?
that day? You flew to pick up Johnny Roselli, other mobsters,
We got
CIA
time now, right?
assets. What was their
Time.
series of events to follow?
Okay, all right. What started all this, like I said, from Pentagon got the information. They immediately got in touch with CIA. CIA got upset with FBI, FBI fighting them. But anyway, as a result of that, the Pentagon put this team together. There was Rojas was a Cuban pilot, worked for Regina Air Cargo. I worked for Riddle Airlines and also Mountain States Aviation and Intermountain Aviation, which later became parts of Evergreen. They put this flight together. I was just a pilot. Friend of mine, Sergio, who got me out of the swamps in Cuba on a plane that I had to crash land in swamps. That's how I got the code name Zapata. But at any rate, long story there. So let's try to speed it up. That's the time I'll get to the Kennedy bit. So we were dispatched. Johnny Rosselli, a good friend of mine, was staying at in Tampa at the inn. I went over from Lantana, West Palm Beach, flew over to pick him up in a D-18 Twin Beach, changed the aircraft, got a DC-3, loaded up the rest of the crew. Then we flew from Tampa to New Orleans, stopped New Orleans, refueled. Other people got on, some people got off. I don't know who in the hell they were to this day. Anyway,
Hmm.
left because of weather. Supposed to go into Redbird Airport in Dallas, but couldn't get there because we had to file a flight plan, which would have been an instrument, but we were a secret flight. We didn't want a record, so we're flying VFR. So we landed at Garland Airport and waited till weather cleared and then jumped over to Redbird Airport. At Redbird Airport, my job, all it was to stay with the airplane, hang out there until whatever mission they were on was completed, and they come back to Redbird, and then we would take off and head back to Miami, Florida for JM Wave debriefing. That was the plan. Sergio was standing at the Oak Cliff Country Club across the way, a street, a highway from Redbird. And Sergio, my friend, who had been with me with Velma Esplin and Raul Castro and Fidel Castro in the mountains in the Sierra Madre a couple of years before. He was my friend on the flight. He comes up to me and says, Tosh, you want to go see the president? I said, hell yeah, why not? I wasn't doing anything. So that was my mission. I rode down with Sergio, who was operational. Sergio's position was with the rest of the crew, the Southside crew, was to look for spotters, triangulation shooting. Where would a shooter be? Where would they spot? I mean, if they were going, the attitude was this is another false drill. There would have
Mm,
been so many things about Kennedy going to be hit and all that. We
yeah.
didn't really know. So anyway, I went over with them, walked across the railroad tracks from the west side of the triple underpass. It was muddy, it was wet, and we walked the south parking lot, didn't see anything. Come back around to the center of the parking lot, still didn't see anything, didn't expect to see anything. I saw what I thought I recognized a few of the guys from the other side, the other team, team two, north side, south side. We're on the south side. The grassy knoll, is a picket fence is on the north side. No shooter was at the picket fence. Nobody shot from there. But anyway, I don't get into conspiracy. So what we're doing, we finally come around to the center and we're standing there when the limousine come around. I sit there and I watched the man's head explode right in front of my eyes. I see
Wow.
it even today. I don't like that. All right, now in the book, Deep Cover, Shallow Graves, we got pictures. We got pictures that was withheld from the Warren Commission at that particular time. We got a picture of a person standing there with a rifle. Am I on base here, Ralph?
Yeah, I would say that as soon as Kennedy was shot, at that moment, there was a reporter from the UPI. He was on the grassy knoll, which is on the north side, right across from where Tosh and Sergio were standing. And he snapped a picture of a couple that were covering their children who were on the grassy knoll, afraid that they might be hit by one of the errant shots. And in the background, he didn't realize it, but in the background, you could see the South Knoll where Tosh and Sergio were standing, and behind them was the figure of two men standing on the lip of the parking lot. And one of the men seems to be holding a rifle, right? And so that's an important that photo was snapped by Frank Consiglietti of UPI of photo log, and and that's a very key photo. That photo was in the
Life
book.
magazine photograph of that picture was withheld from the negative was withheld from the Warren Commission, by the way. But it's in the book, Deep Cover Shallow Graves. If we had a picture of it, we'd hold it up and show you. I mean, there's all kinds of what people say fuzzy pictures, the badge man, this guy here. I mean, a guy shot from a blimp, guy did this, he
Hmm.
shot from a manhole. I mean, my gosh, I mean, there's so many crazy, stupid theories out there. I got guys telling me what the hell I did and they wasn't even born. And they're telling me what happened,
But
what went on.
what Tosh and Sergio experienced is that they felt that the bullet that hit Kennedy in the
Yeah,
head sailed right
missed
over their
us.
heads,
Oh,
and
wow.
they watched it hit the president. Now,
Some of your
as soon as that happened, they got out of there fast, and they hurried back to Redbird Airport and got onto the plane and flew back to Miami. In
right.
Miami, Tosh was arrested and brought back to Denver
Huh.
and put in a county jail there with
Yeah, that's another story.
accused of uh, securing lodging under false pretenses, which is a bizarre charge to begin with.
With
They
Yeah,
flew
it
him
is.
all the way
$5,000
back.
to extradite me back on a false charge. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
they
interrupt.
flew him all the way back to Denver, and he was put in jail, county jail there, with a convicted murderer. And
Jerry
Wow.
Tosh,
Stilley.
yeah, and Tosh, the two of them spoke for a couple of days, and the convicted murderer, confessed to Tosh that he had been put in the cell with him in order to kill him. And the deal was that if he killed Tosh, he'd get a reduced sentence. But
Jerry
instead,
Stilley, let me back up a little bit.
yeah,
Jerry
Yeah.
Stilley was on appeal. He had killed a Denver cop, a shooter, I believe it was. And he was serving a life sentence in Canyon City. He appealed and he was brought back up to the Denver County Jail specifically, and his own words, was to take me out because I was already talking about what the hell we had done with JFK. So we got to be good friends. And he told me the story. He said, they're going to reduce my sentence if I take you out. And whatever happened, sounds like a crazy story. My whole damn life is a crazy story. But anyway, he decided not to. He went back, his appeal was denied, and he committed suicide. So
Wow.
that's a true story. That can be checked out. Lisa Howard commits suicide. He commits suicide. Geez, let's go. All right. So I'm sitting here in county jail on a trumped up charge that was not produced. No check was produced. And I get sentenced to an indefinite stay in the Colorado State Reformatory. And I'm 29, 27, 28 years old. And I get sentenced indefinite to a stay in the Colorado State Reformatory, not prison, not jail, until I grew up. So I wasn't charged. I was extradited at the cost of $5,000 on a no account check charge, allegedly. This can be, your people can check this out. No check was ever produced in that court of Judge Feinsilver. He sentenced me. He said that I had faked my death in a plane crash and I needed to grow up. And so he said, I'm going to put you in the state reformatory and indefinite until you grow up. Am I telling the truth here, Ralph?
Yeah. And while Tosh was in that reformatory, that's when the FBI came out and started to visit him. And on one of those visits, he drew them a map of the position that he and Sergio were in Daly Plaza when the shots were fired. And that map was classified. Tosh later drew another duplicate map in the 70s, and that book is in that map is in the book. But
Tosh, based on what you personally witnessed, would you say for certain there were multiple shooters active at that time?
Oh, it was multiple teams. This was a highly planned, had been planned for months. This wasn't just a spur of the moment, a lone gunman with a magic bullet. I stay out of this conspiracy stuff, but that is the most ridiculous. People say my story is ridiculous. It's very complicated, but it's very simple. So like the old karate, whatever. But no, there were multiple shooters there. We went earlier. Anybody that's been anywhere near any kind of combat knows what I mean when you say you don't hear a shot, you feel a shot. You feel it in your bones. That's the way it was when that shot went over to our left side. Sergio and I are standing there. There's pictures of this. Why did they withhold those pictures? I drew a map for them on two separate occasions. In 1964, withheld from the Warren Commission of where Sergio and I was standing, and we were doing triangulation, and that map was classified top secret committee sensitive through the church committee and also through the John Kerry committee in 1991. So this story is not just something that popped out of the woodwork here in the last few years. This story is there. It's been documented. It's been proven with fuel receipts, lodging stuff, and so on like that. So I'm not trying to convince anybody to believe me. I don't give a shit whether they believe me or not.
When you talked about other teams, there were the team on the grassy knoll picked up two shooters from there. And one of them was a Cuban, the other one was a Frenchman. And those two men were shot as they tried to escape, and their bodies were buried beneath a ballpark, a Burnett ball field, on the other side of the triple underpass.
Ralph, I'm gonna throw you under the bus right now.
All right.
You just released classified information.
Uh-oh.
My co-writer just released classified information on the testimony that this idiot Plumlee give to the church, give to the committee, the House Select Committee, about the two guys that were captured escaping. They called it exfiltration. caught him on the south side, put him in the car, drove across Katy Street Viaduct over to the old Texas Stadium Barnett Field Ballpark, blew their brains out and buried them. Now that's in the book. As we're doing this book, I get a little call from my favorite friends telling me, you can't put that in the book. That's classified. It's in the book. Buy the book. Read the book. And if you want to go after anybody, whoever's listening to this, go after that man that just told you that. my co-writer there, Ralph. How do you say your last name, Ralph?
I forget. Yeah.
You should not release classified. This is new, untold Plumlee BS.
I love it. You heard it here first, everyone. So there's obviously been an infiltration to some degree from these clandestine groups, whoever they are, to plot an assassination of JFK. Would you say this same group gained more power after that incident and may still have
Been going
a
on for 60
large
something
control
years.
of our government?
Yes,
I agree. I think
I agree.
they show themselves again
Yeah.
in full force during the whole Iran-Contra guns for drugs exchange that Tosh later participated in. And they're still around today. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be around here talking about this. So Ralph and I, we've gone around and around. We know where we're going to end up on this. Okay, but the point is this: we're talking about classified information. We're putting out breadcrumbs for anybody listening to this. Just follow our breadcrumbs and go find out for yourself. Don't believe anything we tell you. Go check it out for yourself. Get off your butts and instead of taking the attitude, let George do it, get out and do it yourself. All right, number one, there was multiple crews. This was planned almost a year in advance to take that man out. That man found out about that and set up his own special committee with his brother called KenCom to get his own intelligence about what in the hell was going on with guns, weapons, Vietnam, and why he was not getting the right intelligence. KenCom and the Dallas connection of the Dallas Red Squad Police Department, corrupt as hell, tied in politically. All this with the Murchisons and how, I mean, good gosh, there's 1,000 conspiracy stories out there, what I just hit on, that you could spend hours and hours talking about. But the thing is, you change the narrative. That's what the School of Illusionary Warfare was all about. If you can control the media and the information that goes to the media, you can control the thinking of the people and the actions of the people. You ask if this is still going on. Yes, it's been escalating for the last 60 years. If you take a look at it, everybody says, well, who in the hell is this they? Who is they? Are they the Trilateral Commission? Are they the New World Order? Are they the new oligarchs? Who the hell are they? There is an infiltration within our government, international, and I'm saying this straight in your camera, America is in the middle of a coup, period. Figure it out. Call it what you want. Call it Operation ABC. Call it Operation Flying Tiger. Call it Operation The New World Order. Call it Operation The Trilaterals Got It. Whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to give it to, it's real and it's operative. We talk about lone wolves. We breed lone wolves. We breed lone wolves with the rhetoric that comes out of our top leadership. When you spew out poison and hate, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get, we used to could talk to our neighbor. Can't talk to your neighbor now. You just pull out a gun and blow your brains out. That's where we are right now. Okay,
now, this question is for both of you. Do either one of you have any hope for justice, not only as it relates to the JFK assassination, but we have these criminals involved with the Epstein files, and all the high impact events we've experienced that have that same fingerprint of these psychopaths, can we ever expect justice from those that are also judge, jury, and executioner?
Well, we can't expect them, as you say, to arrest themselves.
Right.
So the only way this is going to change is if people become more aware of who these people are, they root them out, and they demand justice from our Justice Department, which is supposed to be doing this, and we demand that they do their job. For example, the Epstein files is a perfect example because there was a law passed to release all the files and to bring the perpetrators to justice. And it hasn't happened. It's been blocked. And people just have to insist that happen before they elect anybody, right?
But the point is this, my viewpoint. We as a nation and we as individuals and we as American citizens have been desensitized to where we accept this. We expect this. We don't demand justice. We don't get off the couch and do anything. We piss and moan a lot, but we don't do anything. But here's the main thing, in my opinion. We don't respect ourselves, and we sure as hell don't respect our neighbor. That's why we're shooting at each other. In other words, we hate ourselves. We take the blood that is spewed out of our leadership and the negative rhetoric that comes out from the highest level, our chief, whatever the hell you want to call. I'm not going to get into all this, well, glorified president is, and I love him and he's God, and that's bullshit. We better get off our ass and pay attention and have a little respect for ourselves and a little respect for our neighbor. And we need to pull together and start working together to make damn sure that we get out of this being desensitized and start demanding that our leadership do something. Be responsible.
You mentioned
Now,
that you knew Lee Harvey Oswald. Was he involved with these intelligence operations before the assassination that were surrounded with the same people involved?
100%, 100%. Let me tell you something about what I know about Lee. Lee served with me. Okay. There are 5 of me's. I worked under 6 or 7 different operative names. Some of them have been released, some of them haven't. Okay, and they can be checked. Okay, well, if my story comes out, it destroys what's been written. It destroys the public record. It destroys the Warren Commission, and it destroys the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice if my story is officially released. Now, we got an EO out there signed by this president that's supposed to be released those files. I personally look into this camera and I demand that my 17,000 page file with J. Edgar Hoover's initials on it be released tomorrow. Why is the Pentagon going over my file when they should be releasing it? You talk about Epstein. Why are they holding that file? We've got so many skeletons in our closet that our elected officials are so damn afraid that they're going to be released and they're going to lose their reputation, their money bag, and the monies of the percentage that comes from the arms sales of the deals that they pass under the table. Okay, I'm just making a bunch of stuff up here. What the hell do I know about all that? But the point is this: our leadership is corrupt from the top down. We are an organized crime system. Period. The average American person, you ask, what can we do? We can get off our ass and get ourselves desensitized and get our patriotism back and get out here and work to save this country. I don't know. I'm getting on the soapbox now, and I don't mean to. And I don't
No.
mean to step into politics, and I sure as hell don't want to get in conspiracy. But we better look into ourselves. Let me put it this way. Ezekiel, the hip bone's connected to the thigh bone's connected to the leg bone's connected, and on and on and on and on and on. For instance, John Doe was on my plane. He knew Charles. Charles knew Jay. He's on the back seat. A's a B. Who's on first? Who's on second? Who's on third? That's what the hell we're into.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. That's conspiracy. You can take, you can genealogy, you can take this whole story all the way back, and it was Moses that caused JFK to be killed.
Yeah.
Because there is a connection there. There's a genealogy connection there. I'm going to give you another example. A guy told me, he said, I heard you on the radio. You call my daddy a liar. If I see you, I'm going to blow your brains out, Mr. Plumlee. Wow, because I called his daddy a liar. His daddy shot JFK from the Goodyear blimp with a .22 rifle with a scope. Now, I called him a liar when I said nobody shot Kennedy from the picket fence or from a blimp or from a moving car. So we've got lone rock nuts out there that we breed with our bullshit stories that we do for publicity or to get a book published or to make a movie or do a composite character that actually did the event, but we'll put him in a movie and we'll make him a hero and we'll make a lot of money while we do it. Stop me, somebody.
Yeah. Well, look, with the Kennedy assassination, there was a whole operation that had been planned ahead of time to create a narrative, a false narrative of what happened. And the Warren Commission, made that gospel. So people have been believing that for years. The truth of the matter is as Tosh referred before, Lee Harvey Oswald was an operative. He wasn't an assassin. He was actually at the School of Evolutionary Warfare with Tosh in the summer of 1958, learning Russian. They were teaching him advanced Russian so they could use him to defect to the Soviet Union. And he did defect to the Soviet Union, along with 6 or 7 other guys who we don't know, that were never heard from again. But Lee Harvey Oswald went over, and we know from Soviet officials who have since written about it that they didn't trust him because his Russian was so good. They didn't believe he was a real defector. And so they kept a close eye on him, and they put him to work in a TV electronics factory in Minsk, which was outside of Moscow. And that's where he met his wife. And after a year and a half, when he realized he wasn't going to be taken into the KGB, which was the plan, so that the United States, the CIA, would have a source within the KGB. They weren't going to take him into the KGB. They didn't trust him. And so after a year, he petitioned to come back to the United States. And he did come back to the United States. And Tosh ran into him again in the spring of 1963 when he was living in Russia with his wife and his infant daughter. And there he was tracking stolen arms from National Guard armories that Cuban anti-Catholic Cubans
Selling them at that Oak Cliff pawn shop.
Yeah. And that was he was reporting on that. So, he was not an assassin. He was not an expert shot. But they created that whole narrative. And actually what happened is the night before he was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, he tried to contact his control officer. He made a call. Where did he make a call? To Nags Head, North Carolina, to the casino there, which is where all these young recruits were told to contact if they ever got into trouble. And the FBI intercepted that call and never made the connection. And the next day, as he was being transferred from the jail, he was shot in the stomach by Jack Ruby, who was a mob-connected nightclub owner.
Okay, now let me jump in here. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is very important. At this point in time, Ruby, the Dallas Police Department had an intelligence unit known as the Red Squad. They were as corrupt as a $5 or $3 or $2 bill.
Mm.
They hung out at Austin's barbecue, 19 of them. Well, I won't get into that. But at any rate, they went to Ruby's nightclubs. They did security, extra jobs at Ruby's nightclub. They made arrangements to let Ruby into the deal to take Lee out. Lee was operational. Lee was operational from the day one at Nag's Head. Now, let me explain something here that's very important. Lee, like me, had 5 different identities.
Mhm.
That's why you say, which is the real Lee Harvey Oswald? Was he in Mexico? Was he in here? Was he trying to get on board ship in Galveston, Texas? But there's things about all that we don't know. There are a write-up, 600 and something pages about Lee's background. Lee was put in places that he was 500 miles away at the time. So the record is not, record is as screwed up as some of our politicians around that particular time. Again, change the narrative, create your own false story, and that becomes the official record. Lee, I know Marina. Marina and I have talked recently in the last, well, a year ago, and before her husband died. But anyway, Lee was operational. He knew the Dallas Cubans. He worked made extra money as an informant for the FBI, Hosty, and even J. Edgar Hoover told Hosty and the Dallas FBI, destroy all the records you have pertaining to the Dallas operation, which included Lee Harvey Oswald's file. Now, I just said another declassified or whatever just now, but I'll say it again. J. Edgar Hoover gave his special agents in Dallas direct orders, destroy the files. They did.
Wow.
Now, what does that mean? That means Lee Harvey Oswald was operational. He'd been operational since 1958. He was trained as a defector, as Victor Marchetti wrote in his book about Nag's Head. And his book got decensored. How many pages was that, Ralph? 75 pages in black?
Yeah.
And The Cult of Intelligence? And in that was Nag's Head. Nag's Head, North Carolina. Why is Nag's Head, North Carolina, the School of Illusionary Warfare, such a third rail for the CIA and the FBI? Even today, I'm going to get my ass creamed for saying what I just said. So I'll say it again. No, I won't. You got it.
Tosh, this is fantastic information. So important to get this out. And thank you for doing this. What are your final thoughts for the evening before I let you go?
Some coffee.
Read the book. Read the book.
Yeah, read the book.
Yeah.
Right,
read the book, ask questions, and look further. Because as Tosh said, there's a lot of information in there, and there's more that's out there in files that are still being kept secret from the American people. Demand that all those files be released, and let's finally put to bed what exactly happened.
What's the name of that book you wrote there, Ralph? What's the name of that book you wrote?
Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Like I said, fantastic information. I'll have the link to your book easily accessible for everyone in the description. I'd love to speak with you again in the future. And until next time, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Watch Doors of Perception now on Amazon Prime. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order. We live in an incredible age of information. More and more, we're discovering that we've been lied to and misled about much of our human history. Cory Hughes is providing profound revelations about World War I, World War II, the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination, and much, much more on his new Substack, Bloody History. Subscribe now for as little as $5 monthly. Just click that link right in the description to get started now and learn about our true history. Hello, friends. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order.